Thanks for tuning in to the Realtor Moms podcast. We are Tasha and Jamie, full-time realtors in the FM and surrounding areas, and admittedly average moms. This is how we sell homes and try to keep our kids alive.
On today's episode of the Realtor Moms podcast, we are talking about negotiations 101.
Oh yes, here we go.
Like probably the most popular thing, at least that buyers potentially and sellers consider us to be very useful for, right?
Yes.
They don't want to.
They want us to come in and help advise them on the steps they need to take to get the best deal possible.
Totally.
On the buy side, sales side, but at the end of the day.
Those are the words I couldn't get out of my mouth this morning. And sometimes we don't know. A lot of times we don't know.
We don't know where the seller's at, like if we're helping buyers.
Depending on who we're working with.
Yeah. But so when I'm helping buyers, I kind of look at it and I say, okay, I can have some ideas of where this could end up, but we really need to see if they accept or where their counter is to give me an idea of where we need to go and the steps we need to take to get you where you want to be.
And we have been obviously selling real estate for many years, quite a few years between the two of us. And so we've got sort of the trends behind us. We know what's been happening in the world of negotiations. We know what's been trending for buyer concessions or seller concessions, pricing, percentage of sale price to list price, all those kinds of things, which is where we can step in and help out on both sides.
Well, I know you and I, what we both do when we're trying to help advise our clients, and I'm taking this from the buy side right now.
Sure.
When I have a buyer and I'm looking at, let's say there's a house they're interested in, and they say, Tasha, let's write. Okay. What I'm going to be looking at is the days on market. The more days on market means more negotiation power generally for when you bring an offer.
Right. Because you start to assume that the seller is getting a little more willing to sell. A little more pressure on that seller to sell, a little more willingness to negotiate and come down in price.
Correct. I'm looking at the property condition. If it's an immaculate condition, there's less room for negotiations because there's no work that needs to be done. But let's say it needs new carpet, or if the paint is dinged up, if those things come at a cost. And so I'm looking at the property condition and really kind of advising my clients on the best way to move forward with their offer.
Totally. And that's not to say that a seller didn't take that into consideration when they listed the home. Because, sometimes they absolutely do. And other times maybe we feel like they really didn't notice. And this is, again, why go through some of our other podcasts, because we have said, I feel like a few times before, if you spend, $1,000 updating or maybe not updating, but just cleaning things up and touch up painting and putting on that missing piece of trim, those little things that might cost you pennies on the dollar compared to what a buyer is going to discount off your asking price if they feel like they have to do it themselves. So big negotiating point is having your house in as good of condition as you can reasonably,
Perfect, just how I would have said it. Thank you, Jamie.
Sure. Yes. So.
The other thing that I know that I'm looking for is how many price drops that house had. If they've had none and it's been on the market for a long period of time, okay, what's the reasoning why price drops aren't being done?
Right.
We're trying to we're trying to anticipate what this, what's going through the seller's mind, what's going through the listing agent's mind, where we can go with this.
We're looking for trends. Maybe every 30 days they're dropping $10,000. Okay, well, are we 5 days after a $10,000 price drop? There might not be a whole lot of eagerness to wiggle again on price.
But if it's
29 days since the last price drop, and they've done it 3 times before, right around that mark, that might mean that we recommend to a buyer to give it a few days, or to go ahead and do it before that price drop so that you're not potentially competing.
Ending up in a multiple offer scenario.
Right.
How many times have we seen multiple offers after a price drops?
Right? It's a house that's been on the market for like a half a year, and then you think you're the only fish in that sea, and you write the offer and find out
it's multiple offers because they just did a price drop.
Right. No, it does happen.
The other thing I'm looking at is competition.
Yeah,
you bet. What is the competition doing? Where are they at? Where is their price at? What is their property condition look like? Really, the competition is really going to dictate some of the advice I give, and I know the advice you'd give. So.
Or like you mentioned too, you look at comps and try to see what kind of concessions the seller's made. And by concessions, we mean
seller paid closing costs.
Right. Or maybe they put some money towards specials, or maybe they, replaced all the carpet before closing or something like that. We call those seller concessions.
A new roof, new windows, something of high value.
And those can be a negotiating point for a buyer too. Like, hey, we know that this house is really similar to house B over here, and here's what that sale looked like. And no two houses are identical, but we can sometimes use that to our advantage, but so can a seller use that to their advantage.
I just put on a new roof, or I just I did a new roof, I put in new carpet or new flooring. They can use that to their advantage in negotiations as well.
It's important to look at all those comparables as best we can to see what would be the most reasonable place to start or to respond to in a negotiation.
Yes.
How about the kinds of negotiations that we end up in? Right? Like and again, we're kind of coming at this from a buyer standpoint, but it really applies on both edges, right?
Yes.
Or both sides. Like buyers or sellers, you've got the come in as low as you can
and see what they're willing to do.
See what they're willing to do. And none of these styles are wrong. And we may tease a little bit about, a lowball offer, but there is no wrong way to negotiate. It's the way that you're comfortable with. But these are just some of the things that we see.
Like $30,000 off a $150,000 house.
Right. That's 20-some% or so. I mean, I'm not doing very good fast math here, but you get the picture. Like, we can also look up what's been trending for
certain neighborhoods, yes.
For percentage of list price, which is what the house is offered for sale, versus for how close to that list price it actually sold for.
98%, 95%.
A lot of Fargo-Moorhead is really, really high, which is a testament to sellers pricing their homes correctly. At correct price points. So the buyers are recognizing that too. There are some other markets not that far away. Lakes Country has a little bit bigger separation between listing price and selling price historically. Not always the case, but yeah.
What's interesting, I just did one and my jaw dropped to the ground because I was shocked. I haven't even told you about this. I was doing a market evaluation and running numbers on a condo. Yeah. And I was shocked because that ratio was at 96%, which is not common for this area. Yeah. And so I was like, I was shocked. It was something that I was not anticipating, and there you go. The numbers don't lie. So
Right. And people like to use the historical facts to be prepared to make an offer or to negotiate with a buyer. So, yeah. So we've got the people that come in super low. I feel like their thinking is two different things. Sometimes you've got the super low offerers, and they are the take it or leave it. Like, okay, house is listed for $150, we're offering $100, take it or leave it. And that's really what they mean. They're like just looking for a deal. Maybe they're investing. Maybe they're buying their personal residence, but they also want to try to see if they can get a lot of equity right off the bat.
Yes.
It's not wrong. It's just not always met with the highest degree of favor from the sellers, right?
Very much so.
Again, nothing wrong with doing that, but sometimes that can actually hurt you in the long run.
Yes.
Sometimes coming in with a super low offer gets met with a seller responding with a very, very teeny tiny price drop in their counter offer.
And they're not willing to drop that low.
Yeah, you end up starting off on a bad foot. So sometimes that happens too.
You take the risk of offending the seller, and they're not willing to negotiate a better deal with you, where maybe if you start off at a better better offer,
right, a little more reasonable, right,
then they're more willing to work with you.
And I want to say too, from a seller's standpoint, and Tasha just touched on it, like, try not to get offended by a low offer. Sellers always take these offers very, very personally, and what they're not listening to or what they're not anticipating is no matter what house this particular buyer was probably going to make an offer on,
they're going to use this strategy.
They were going to use this strategy. It is not a reflection of your property. So it as much as you can, and I know, like, it'll totally happen to me one day, and I'll totally take it personal, but just do what you can to not take it personal. It's just a strategy.
When we see many times they say, oh, well, they're not willing to go that low. Okay. And sometimes they'll say, okay, we're ready to move forward. Now we know what they're willing to do.
Right. Sometimes they just have to try, right? How often do you get the buyers who are like, well, we just want to try?
Yes.
But that totally happens.
But when we look at this too, that's kind of the second piece to this, because you had mentioned the people that are take it or leave it.
Yep.
But that's what they want to see, how far the seller is willing to go.
Right.
That's the second piece to that. Though that's the people we see. One of two, that's what we see.
Right.
So,
and then how about the anticipatory style of negotiating, right? The people who are kind of sitting down and they're thinking, well, if I'm going to start here, and then the seller's going to respond this way, and then I'm going to respond this way, and then we're going to meet at this point.
Somewhere in the middle.
Right. So, and there's nothing wrong with that either. I think that's probably, as realtors, what's going on in our heads.
That's what's going on in mine.
Here, and then they're going to go there.
I give the advice.
Not wrong.
The advice I give
different.
is saying, okay, have a starting point, but have a stopping point that you're not willing to go past. And it's just kind of my way of helping my clients kind of understand, okay, we're going to have some back and forth. Don't be surprised that you get a counter offer. We're kind of going to be in a dance right now, back and forth until we can, find a way to meet in the middle or find a way to agree on a price.
Right.
So,
and I feel like we, always assuming that you can meet exactly in the middle. And I know that's not what you're saying.
That's not what I was saying.
Always assuming that you can meet in the middle isn't always the best scenario.
Not the best scenario, but find a way to find a price that both sides can agree upon.
Yep.
That's what I mean
by
that.
And I like what you said about having your stopping point.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it can feel like when you are negotiating back and forth, oh, it's just $1,000 more, or, I mean, $1,000 is really not enough to necessarily change your mind. But maybe you're going up by $5,000 or $10,000 or $20,000 at a time. If you've got that stopping point set from the beginning, then when you get there, or if you're tempted to exceed that, you can really feel comfortable in saying, you know what, I remember that when I started off with this house, this is where I was going to stop. I decided that I was not going to pay any more than that. And then you can kind of reground yourself and realize, okay, is this something where I need to reevaluate that stopping point, or did I really mean what I said when I said this is where I'm going to stop?
Correct.
So, but then on the flip side, here I go, like being totally contradictory. Try not to lose a deal over $1,000.
Yes, exactly. Really, at the end of the day, it won't change your monthly payment. It won't change your down payment. It won't change those costs by a large amount.
Keep it. I guess it's just the whole point of this is keep it all in perspective. If $4 a month is going to make all the difference, which I'm being facetious here. I'm guessing that's not going to make the difference if you're happy with the house for $1,000. However, on the flip side, if you feel like you've negotiated back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, if now you've gotten into an area where you're no longer comfortable, that's where you stop.
Correct.
Or you lean back on what was that number that I initially anticipated I would not pay more than that for, and you stick there. So, yeah, I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth, but I hope that you're understanding what we're trying to get across.
Well,
lots of different styles.
There's lots of different styles.
And no wrong way. And try not to take it personal.
That's the biggest thing. People have different styles, and people just have different styles, and it just kind of understanding that going in.
Yep. And sometimes leaning on your realtor to help you kind of put things in perspective can be really, really helpful. Plus the additional data that the general population just doesn't have available to them about comparable and historical sales and the history of the listing, or of the property you're interested in.
We're here to provide that information, and
exactly.
we can kind of help you figure out, is this the right deal for me?
Awesome. Thanks for tuning in.
We would love to be your realtor, so reach out. Replay or hear more episodes at realtormomspodcast.com, or check us out on iTunes. We post funny stories and more information on Facebook and Instagram too, so check us out there as well. This podcast is produced by Tasha Barrett and Jamie R. Swenson of Park Company Realtors, Fargo, North Dakota, 701-237-5031.